Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark TV. You guys know what I'm going to say. We are here to enlighten, inspire, and empower you. And that's exactly what this women's conference is about: inspiring, empowering, and enlightening women. Today's topic is career and leadership. I have amazing entrepreneurs and authors that are going to share their wisdom with us today. To have Rich Shaw, and the title of his book is Passionaire. I know, another great title to the book. So go on, get comfy, get cozy, because we are about to get started. Hello, hello. Thank you so much, speakers, for joining me for the first annual Enlighten, Inspire, Empower Women's Conference. I am so excited to have you here today. Now, I am going to jump right into the questions. Now, we are talking about career and leadership today. Now, I'm going to ask the question, and I will let the two of you decide who wants to answer first. There's no right or wrong there. Now, I'd like to ask about advancing our educational credentials. For many people, where they started was just fine. Whatever degree they had, if they had one, whatever credential certification that they needed, it was fine. But now they're noticing that in order to climb the proverbial ladder, we need to have more credentials, some more letters behind your name, if you will. So I want to kind of shift into that particular mindset. So my question is, education, of course, is important, and we should always strive to be as educated as we feel that we need to be. But is education always just a college degree? When we talk about education and our careers, how should we understand that word?
Yes, I'm an advocate learner, a lifelong learner, and I encourage other people to expand their knowledge through education, through reading. But we live in a society where everybody is not going to further their education, but that doesn't mean that you can't be a lifelong learner. You can be a lifelong learner. I have several degrees, and that's the path I took. But there are other people who may not see that that's important. But you still be a lifelong learner by, like you said earlier, through experience, because some people say experience is your best teacher. In some cases, that may be true, but not all cases that is true. But what education does for people, and what I've seen in my own life, it gives me a broader perspective, seeing things differently, viewing things from all angles, not just one-sided or lopsided, and it opens up a new horizon for me. And so I would always encourage people to always strive and get more knowledge, whether it's through a college degree or whether it's just through reading on a daily basis to get more information, getting information about different things. So and as an expression that goes, the more you know, the more you grow. And so when you are a person who is a lifelong learner, and whether you have a degree, I encourage people to get degrees. I've been in the field of education for several years, so I've always been an advocate of education. But the reality is not all people will go that route. But if that's the case, still be a lifelong learner by learning, reading, and educating yourself and updating yourself, because times change and we're living in a society that's constantly evolving. It's evolving into, now we're living in a technology age. Now we're able to do things that are more on the horizon to greater means. So the only way that you can do that is to enhance yourself through lifelong learning.
Thank you so much for that answer. My next question for you, along the same lines with education, when we're in college, there may be a particular dream job that you have in mind, and it requires that you have, let's say, at least your master's degree. my understanding, to be a counselor in, I believe, all states here, at least the majority of the states here in the United States, you have to have at least your master's degree before you can be a counselor. Now, they may be a little different with some other categories of counselor and therapist, but across the board, it seems like a master's degree is what's needed. Some people will choose to go on and get their doctorate as well. My question for you is that if your dream job requires that additional graduate's degree, have you found that there's any benefit in getting that graduate degree while you're still fresh, while you're still young? You know, you graduate from high school, you go get your undergrad. Should you go on and pursue that master's degree and that doctorate if that's needed? Or should you graduate, go get some work experience, and then go back to school at a later time and get your master's degree or whatever graduate degree that you need? What's your suggestion there?
I've seen it done both ways. I've seen people who get their bachelor's degree and they go straight into the workforce and they work straight on in and getting their master's and doctorate. Of course, I went a pathway of getting my bachelor's, and then I went on and got my master's, and I started on my doctorate before I got real busy. And then I wasn't able to finish up because of the demand of my job. But for the most part, I've seen people who start out and they get their work experience and they decide that they want to advance their career, and which is what I did. I knew that I wanted to advance my career, so I went on and got my master's. I went on and pursued it because I realized that that was going to be the ticket to get me to where I was trying to go, my ultimate goal. And so there are some people who do it that way. And then there's some people that just go straight through and work on that doctorate's degree. So I encourage people to know what your goals, what is your mission, what is that you really want to do, where you ultimately want to be, and then pursue those goals as relates to it, because it's so important to have a goal, know where you're going, and know the path that you're trying to lead, and know what the requirements is going to take in order to achieve those goals, in order to get there.
I love how you're both kind of saying the same thing, that it really and truly not only depends on the person, on the individual, and what they're able to do at that moment of making the decision, but make sure that you understand all of it. Look at the biggest picture. Are you confirming this is what you want to do? If it isn't, here's your opportunity to change. So it really and truly does depend on that individual person. I love it. I love it. See, that's why I asked that question. I think that someone needed, kind of to know that it is okay to either stop, work, or it's okay to continue to go through and then go out there and get that work experience. And if you change your mind, it's okay to change your mind and get that graduate degree in something else that's going to help you get further along. I love it. I love it. Now, with some of the companies, and I say some, I do know a few companies here in the US, they offer what I'm going to call an education program. And that if you work in a particular field, they will allow you to go to school while you work, and they will cover a portion of your tuition. If you make, an A in the class, they cover 100%. A B in the class, let's say, is 50%, so on and so forth, right? It has to be something that's directly connected, however, to your job. So you can't go get, additional education in another field that's not going to benefit you with that particular company. Is that something that people should look into? If they're going to pay for you to get an additional certification or credential in any way, shape, or form, should people utilize that option?
Mm-hmm. I agree totally. I went the pathway. My employer, as soon as I graduated from high school, not high school, but I was working my way through school, and I had the understanding that they was going to pay for my degree, my first degree, and in lieu of my services for X amount of years. Like you said, it was 2 or 3 years. I had to be there with at least that, but I was there for the long haul. I had that understanding going into it. I had no other plan other than doing just that. that option of being with the company or being with the district for that amount of time so that I can advance my career, because I knew exactly where I wanted to go, where my career path was going to go. I was going to teach and I was going to move and advance my career later on down the line. So I knew I had to get that degree, plus I had to get an advanced degree as well. So I would encourage people to know what your career path is. What is it that you really want to do? Do you know that this is a company that you would want to stay with or remain with, as opposed to making a commitment and then you falter on that agreement? So I would encourage people to know what it is that you really want to do. What is your next right move? Does it feel right to be with this company? And then listen to it and ask yourself, what is my next right move? Does this feel right for me? If it does, then I would say make that commitment. But if it doesn't, then I would make that commitment, because you're going to falter along the way as a result of that. So I would encourage people to know what your goals are. What is your career path? What is your goal? What is your ultimate goal? What is you planning on doing? Do you plan on being with this company for a while before you buy a house, before you start getting into other debts? And so know exactly what it is that you want to do. That's what my advice and encouragement for other people as it relates to making those kind of commitments.
And I love that both of you are saying a very important thing, and that is, before you just jump in and say yes, make sure that you are aware of what the commitment is, what the requirements are. I love that. Slow down, read the fine print. Make sure that when you check that box, that you know what you're getting into. Unlike the things online where you have to check the box in order to advance, and you're like, yeah, check the box, just hit submit. And so many times we have no idea what we have agreed to until we have a question or a concern, and it was in the fine print. So I love that you're both saying the same thing there. Now, when it comes to career opportunities, everyone has to make the decision of, I've been at this particular location or in this particular field for X amount of years, and now I want to do thus and so. I'd like to kind of shift gears a little bit and go down that path. So my question to you is how often should we look to promote? Now, I realize that there are some people out there that are already entrepreneurs, they're solopreneurs, and that's a different type of question. I'm directing this towards someone that's still an employee and they're looking to get to that managerial supervisor level. How often should you look to promote, or what is a realistic expectation?
Yes, and I understand that. I would encourage people to know what is expected of you. Just don't start applying and you don't know what the expectations are. Mm-hmm. Know if that job, that role fits you and fits your personality. Don't do some research, look into it more, because what looks good may not be what you think it is once you get into it. So I would encourage people to do some research, go look at the situation, do some background information before, do you want to work here in that particular role? That might not be for you just because it looks easy on somebody else. Just because this clothing looks good on somebody else may not look good on you. So you have to understand your temperament, what it is that you really want to do, what you want to obtain before you start applying. And then here's another point that I would like to add. Number 2 is, don't be afraid to venture out. Just because you work for a company doesn't mean that advancement is there for you. You may want to explore somewhere else and go to another company who may be open to advancing you to the next level. So don't just throw all your eggs into one basket trying to stay with one company. Always be open to other areas and other means to get to the ultimate goal that you're trying to go. But do research before you go and start trying to apply for this particular role, because it may not be for you. It looks good on somebody else. It looks good on the outside, but it may not be for you in the long run. So save yourself some time by doing research and looking into a little bit more before you go and start trying to say, hey, I'm here.
That is such good advice. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And as you were talking, the point that you made of promotion may not be necessarily within that company, though you have been there and they have been great to you, and you have been great for them. Perhaps the promotion is not within that company. It may be with another company. I think that a shout out to our millennials. I think that our millennials have really taught us that very thing, that we should not necessarily always believe in the traditional way of I started here, this is where I will retire. They have no qualms about saying my time here may be done and it is time for me to look to another place. My goal is not to get a watch or a clock or something here. I need to go out and pursue another place. So thank you so much for that. I love that. Now, one of the things that I have noticed in particular is that when it comes to promotion and asking for that promotion, in preparing oneself, positioning oneself, as Charlie said, flying your flag for that promotion, women unfortunately don't always speak up as often as we should. If we speak up for position, sometimes we do not speak up for salary. There are a lot of things that we find that women do not do that our male counterparts do when it comes to promotion. Have either of you experienced that? Have you made note of that? And if so, what are some potential solutions or things that we could suggest to the women that may be ready for promotion, but they're a little nervous to speak up and speak out?
Yeah, and I agree totally, because that was leading to my next point. Yes, first of all, you got to know your worth. Second, you got to know your environment. You got to know what the expectations are for that particular role in which you are desiring. You don't just go and just apply for something just because you feel it in your heart. It may not be the right place or the right time. So you have to understand your that timing is everything. You have to look and do your research and look at the environment and look at the culture in which you're applying for. The role in which you're applying for. Is it for me? It might be the right position, but just at a different place. So be open to that. Be open to it, and don't just force it because you feel like you are the right candidate for that particular role. Be open to going elsewhere, because the elsewhere may embrace your femininity. So be open to it. Don't just just because you've been there all these years that you feel like you're a shoe in. So you have to do your research and know your culture and know your worth, and don't settle for anything less than your worth, because your worth is going to determine what your net worth is ultimately going to be. So do your research before you make those steps in trying to advance within a culture that may not be embracing you. But if it's embracing you, I would say go for it. The green light is yours. But if it's not, then be open to other means and other avenues. If you're ready to go, you feel like you're ready, you've gotten the experience that you need. So it's now time for you to go to the next level. But be open to it and be open to looking elsewhere in the meantime.
As you were talking, it made me think about The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, when he talks about how he got started doing what he was doing. And he says, one of my biggest dreams was to make the NFL. And he says, but look at me now. One of my biggest failures was one of my biggest successes, right? And I look at that or I understand what you guys are saying to kind of be in that same vein. Just because someone has told you no there doesn't mean that somewhere else isn't going to say yes and see the value that you bring to their table. So I love it. I love it. Now, speaking of making these types of shifts, There are many women out there that are saying, I am tired of being an employee. It has served me well, but I have been bitten by the entrepreneurial bug. Thanks to the pandemic, a lot of people have figured out that they are qualified to work for themselves, by themselves. They are ready to enter into that preneur life, as I like to call it, mompreneur, dadpreneur, solopreneur, right? With that being said, do you have any suggestions for someone who's ready to make that shift from employee to preneur life?
Yeah, and I would encourage to look before you leap. Don't just go in and say, "Hey, I'm just going to quit my job and then I'm going to start my own." You want to understand the risk going into it. I don't encourage people to just jump without looking, so to speak. I want you to do your research and understanding what comes with that. Yeah, it's good to be an entrepreneur. That's fine and dandy, but understand the risk that comes along with it. Don't just be the person that just leaping without looking. So what I mean by that in terms of understanding what comes with it. Don't just jump out there. You have other responsibilities, but don't be afraid to venture out and climb over your fears. You can do it. A lot of people have done it, but that doesn't mean it's going to always happen for you the same way. So you have to understand what comes with entrepreneurship. I would say start while you're working, do it while you're working, be the best at what you can do. Learn all you can on your job and knows what it's going to take to be successful, not only working for somebody else, but working for yourself. Are you a self-starter? So you got to know yourself. You got to reflect on the inside. Are you one of those kind of people that you could work well? You self-manage yourself. So if you're one of those kind of people, then you may look into entrepreneurship because there's going to be a lot of days that you're going to have to start it all by yourself. You're going to be the janitor. You got to be the manager. You got to be everything, when you start in your business. So it's nobody else going to have to make it happen. You're going to have to make it happen. So I would say do research, do your due diligence, look into things before you actually leap out of it. But start it while you're working and being the best that you can be the best employee. So you'll be the best employee that you could be. So when you start your own business, you already know it's going to be successful. Why? Because you're one of those kind of individuals that's going to make sure that it's done correctly, whether you have to do it or you have to partner or employ somebody else to assist you. So, but in the meantime, I will, make sure you have all your eggs in a basket, make sure, because it's going to take finances, to get your business started, because just know going into a start now is not going to be what you think it is, blooming right then and there. So it's going to take some time to really start blossoming in your business. So start while you're working, pay the bills and what have you. And then as things progress and you start picking up in your business, then look at other options. But those just don't right out the back and just go quit your job and then you don't have anything else going for yourself. I don't encourage people to do that. So know what the ins and the outs, do your research, do some reflecting, know yourself before you actually make that move.
I couldn't agree with you more. Many of the solopreneurs and entrepreneurs that I know, we all kind of did the same thing. We knew the year that we were going to work and start our business, just for sake of argument, because all of us started quite a while ago. It was okay. It's 2010, it's 2009, right? This year we are working to put that money, to have that financial backing for mybusiness.com, right? Because this is what we're working towards. And the one thing that I like that you both said is have that conversation. So not only have that conversation with yourself, but with your significant other. Make sure that they understand what your dream is, what's going to happen there, because they may have to pick up some slack, or they may have to be more flexible, whatever it is, but have that conversation. And I could not agree with you more. And you both said the same thing. Do not just quit your job and think that this entrepreneurial lifestyle is for everyone. An overnight success is not overnight. And if you do not have the financial means to take care of yourself for, I tell everyone, for like the first 3 years, I think Charlie, you gave that number as well. For the first 3 years, you need to keep working a little bit longer. It is more than a side hustle. It really and truly does consume your life. So I agree with you there. Now I want to shift gears just a little bit and talk about the leadership aspect of things. So we've talked about our careers and what we want to do, but with that career, be it that we are staying an employee and going up that ladder, or we are now a preneur person. Leadership is important. I know that I share many times when I'm the person being interviewed that I am a self-motivated person. You do not have to remind me to get up and get the task done. You don't have to remind me to do X, Y, and Z, because I realize that it is up to me to get those things done, right? I don't have a boss. I am the boss. But if you want to be a boss, you have to make those tough decisions and get the ball rolling. With that being said, mindset is so important. When you guys talk about mindset, why is hashtag mindset matters so important?
Yeah. And understanding what leadership is, understand why you want that role. Because just because you feel like you could see yourself in that role doesn't mean that you can step up to the plate and be there. So you have to really understand you, because leadership starts from within. You leaders mostly see things about themselves. They notice things about themselves. And then once you understand that thing about yourself, that you're supposed to do more who you are, because everybody is not for leadership. You have to understand your temperament. Look on the inside of you. Once you understand that burning desire, that passion, because once you have that passion, other people will see that passion on the inside of you, then they will gravitate to what you're passionate about. Once they see that you are unfolding in that particular role that you're trying to do, then you start getting followers. Okay, so understanding that, and what true leadership is not about control. It's not about control. It's about service. And once you understand that that's the role of a leader, it's about service, not control. Some people think it's about manipulation, to be dogmatic, to withhold people from different things that they want. That is not true leadership. True leadership is about serving. To whom much is given, much is required, and you have to step in that role and be more of a servant role. And some people who are in those roles, they think it's about manipulation and controlling people and withholding things from them. That's not true leadership. True leadership is about service. What can you do to help better make the organization better, make your people better? Because you want to make the people around you better. When you make the people around you better, that's a sign of a true leader.
I love that answer. Now, you guys, we have about 2 minutes left, but I want to ask you one more question. And then I want to ask you about your books. With both of you being an author, I want to also touch on that. So again, we have about 2 minutes left, but I have to ask this question, and that is, why is it important to include women in leadership? Why is it important to have women at the table?
Yeah. I've worked with both good leaders, female leaders, and not so good. I've worked with male and female. But on the other hand, I see the value in which women bring to the table when they're in leadership. They bring a fresh and different perspective, and they tend to be a little bit more open-minded as it relates to what change needs to take place. And they embrace their employees a little bit better at sometimes I've experienced. But for the most part, I think the perspective that they bring, the empathy part, understanding of the value of their employees and being a little bit more sympathetic when it comes to their employees at times. And so the value of being able to bring that diversity back into a workplace, I think women has always been helpful in that regards. And so I think it's the most important, just bringing a valuable input, another perspective, another side to everything to the workplace. And so that's what I would think and I would feel that a woman would bring to the workplace as it relates to leadership.
I could not agree with both of you anymore. I find that diversity in leadership tends to be more positive than negative because everyone brings their unique perspective, their unique voice, and it allows for the global community to be better recognized, or whatever their niche is, that they tend to feel more heard because there are such diverse pieces pulled into the culture of the corporation. So I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you guys so much for talking about career and leadership. I have enjoyed that conversation. Thank you so much to my presenters for coming on and sharing your wealth of information. I am so happy to have had you here today. And thank you so much for sharing with our viewers and with our guests that are ticket holders here tonight. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Dr. Angela. Appreciate it.
You are so welcome. And viewers, thank you for joining us today as well. I hope that we have enlightened, inspired, and empowered you again today. And thank you so much for being a part of the first annual Enlighten, Inspire, Empower Women's Conference.